Deion Sanders to have surgery for blood clots. Says he won't slow down. The sun hadn't yet risen over Boulder when whispers started circulating through the University of Colorado's athletic offices. The man known for his swagger, his shades, and his supernatural ability to inspire was headed for yet another hospital room. Deion coach Prime Sanders, the face of Colorado football and one of the most magnetic figures in modern sports, was preparing for a 4-hour surgery. The diagnosis? Blood clots in his lower body, again. For most, it would be terrifying news. For Deion Sanders, it was another battle in a war he's been fighting for years, often smiling through the pain, often standing or sitting before his players as though he were made of armor. But beneath the iconic shades and diamond-encrusted watches lies a body that has endured more surgeries, more infections, and more near-death experiences than most people can imagine. "I'm gonna go in there, and I'm gonna get some of the best sleep in the world," he said with a grin before heading into the operating room. The surgery would take 4 hours, an aspiration thrombectomy, a complex procedure to remove blood clots from his left popliteal and tibial arteries. The same leg that had already lost 2 toes. The same leg that had cost him parts of his calf. The same leg that had once carried him down NFL sidelines at lightning speed, and now carried the scars of survival. 2. We found what we found, the calm before surgery. At his press conference in Boulder, Sanders spoke with his usual calm, almost teasing the gravity of his condition. "We found what we found," he said, wearing his Colorado jacket and that signature smile. "We knew what it was. No fear, no hesitation, just another obstacle to conquer." He was clear this wasn't about football or fatigue or slowing down. "It has nothing to do with me working in the level that I'm trying to compete at," he explained. "It's hereditary. It is what it is." To him, this wasn't a story of weakness. It was a story of genetics, faith, and endurance. But to everyone watching, it was impossible not to see the irony. The man who had once outrun entire defenses, who made a living out of acceleration, was now fighting against a condition that literally slows the flow of blood through his veins. And yet, he promised he'd be back on the sidelines. "I don't plan to miss Saturday's game against Iowa State," he declared. For Sanders, football is not just a job. It's oxygen, and he's never been good at taking a breath without it. Just days before the surgery, Colorado faced TCU. A game Sanders will never forget, not because of the scoreboard, but because of the pain. "I was hurting like crazy," he admitted after the game. Cameras captured him sitting more than usual, sometimes wincing, often wearing just one shoe. At one point, fans wondered if it was a style statement. After all, this was Coach Prime. But it wasn't fashion. It was agony. His left leg throbbed with pressure. Blood flow was restricted. Deep inside the arteries, clots had formed again. It was a haunting reminder of his past. A medical nightmare he thought he had already conquered. The following morning, he knew it wasn't just fatigue. It was the same darkness returning. "I think I got more blood clots," he said somberly. And he was right. Deion Sanders' story is a football fairy tale stitched together with scars. Long before he became Coach Prime, the charismatic leader at Colorado, he was the athlete who defied logic. 8-time Pro Bowl selection, 2-time Super Bowl champion, a Hall of Famer who could play both baseball and football professionally, a man who turned prime time into a lifestyle. But in 2021, while coaching at Jackson State, his body betrayed him for the first time in a way he couldn't ignore. Doctors diagnosed him with compartment syndrome, a dangerous condition that traps blood and pressure in muscles. It started in his left leg and spread fast. Within days, he was in surgery after surgery. He nearly died. He lost 2 toes. Parts of his calf had to be removed. He spent weeks in the hospital, 3 games away from his team, and months in a wheelchair. Most would have retired. Sanders chose to fight. When he returned, he rolled onto the sideline in a motorized wheelchair. coaching with the same fire as ever. His players cried. Fans stood and cheered. Even his critics had to admit Coach Prime wasn't just about talk. He was about heart. Sanders' defiance runs in his blood, but so do his medical battles. My mother told me one uncle died from this, another almost did, and she's had problems too, he shared. It's hereditary. That admission carried more weight than he likely intended, because behind every smile and one-liner, Deion carries the ghosts of his family's history. A genetic storm he cannot outrun, no matter how strong his willpower or how advanced his doctors are. And yet, that lineage also carries his unbreakable spirit. His mother raised him to be resilient. His faith taught him to face pain with grace. His children, Shadur, Shiloh, and Deandra, see in him the living embodiment of perseverance. He doesn't just preach about overcoming adversity. He embodies it. When Colorado signed Sanders to a new deal in March 2025, a contract worth at least $10 million annually, it was both a reward and a risk. Buried within the pages of legal language is a clause that speaks volumes. If after engaging in the interactive process with the university's Center for Disability and Access, coach is deemed unable to perform the essential functions of his job with or without reasonable accommodation, this agreement will automatically terminate. In simpler terms, if Coach Prime's body ever says no, the university has the right to move on. The clause is standard, but in Sanders' case, it feels heavy, almost prophetic. For a man whose life revolves around being on his feet, commanding energy, and setting a tone for hundreds of players and staff, any medical setback could have implications beyond health. Still, Sanders has made one thing clear. He's not stopping. Not now. Not ever. I can't wait to get past this hurdle, he told reporters. Even as fans worry, even as administrators hold their breath, Sanders remains unshakably certain, not in medicine, but in faith. As if vascular disease wasn't enough, May brought another devastating blow. During a routine medical visit tied to his circulation issues, doctors found a tumor in his bladder. Cancer. The news was crushing, yet another reminder that the physical cost of being Deion Sanders was still being written. Surgeons removed his bladder. The operation saved his life but changed it forever. Now, Sanders lives with medical accommodations most men never imagine. He wears adult diapers, a reality he has spoken about with disarming honesty. Most coaches would have hidden that truth behind layers of PR spin. Not Sanders. He uses his story to teach humility and strength. It's life, he said. You adapt. That's what makes him different. For all his flash and confidence, there's an underlying realism, an understanding that pain is not the enemy, but the price of purpose. When Deion Sanders walks into a Colorado locker room, players straighten their backs. Reporters fall silent. Cameras turn. His presence is electric. But few realize how much pain he's often hiding. Behind every fiery pregame speech is a man who wakes up in pain. Every step on the field is an act of defiance against his own body. To lead, he must disguise his suffering. But for his players, that very struggle has become the ultimate lesson. Coach Prime preaches faith and fight, said one player. But when you see him actually living it, when he's hurting and still out there with us, it hits different. For Sanders, authenticity has always been his armor. He doesn't hide from pain. He turns it into purpose. That's why his players follow him with a devotion few coaches can command. Publicly, Sanders remains prime time, charismatic, funny, stylish. He still films motivational videos, still commands interviews, still signs deals. Privately, though, there are quiet moments, nights when pain keeps him awake, mornings when his leg feels like it's on fire, and hospital visits that remind him of how fragile the body can be. But he doesn't let the world see weakness. He sees vulnerability as a teaching tool, not a cry for sympathy. God's testing me, he once said, but I'm still standing. For Sanders, The hospital bed is just another arena. The operating room, another stadium. The fans may be nurses this time. The scoreboard replaced by vital signs. But the mindset is the same: win. Deion Sanders' story has always been about faith. Even before his coaching days, even before the NFL glory, he credited every success to divine purpose. He believes that his pain has meaning, that his scars are testimonies, that his survival isn't luck, but destiny. As he faces yet another surgery, he's once again asking the same question that has followed him for decades. How do you keep shining when the world keeps dimming your light? The answer lies in how he approaches everything, with gratitude and grace. "I can't wait to get past this hurdle," he told fans before the surgery. "Thank you for your well wishes, for your sentiments, everybody out there." It wasn't just a polite statement. It was the declaration of a man who refuses to let pain define him. At 58, Deion Sanders is far more than a football coach. He's a symbol of resilience, faith, and transformation. He once dazzled fans with touchdowns and interceptions. Now, he inspires millions with his perseverance. When his players see him limping but still showing up, they understand that greatness isn't measured by speed or strength, but by endurance. Every stitch in his scar tells a story. Every surgery is another chapter, and every comeback redefines what it means to lead.